The first time I ever played Dark Souls was on the Xbox 360. My brother had left the game inside of the console and I decided to boot it up and try it out myself. I was very intrigued by the game. I loved the mechanics and I read the things on the ground. I learned how to play the game immediately. I was so good at the game upon initially starting it up. Didn't have any issues with the Asylum Demon. Didn't have any issues with any aspect of the game at all. I thought this game was really fun. I thought it was easy. I enjoyed managing my stamina. I didn't really have any issues with it. I didn't know the online opinion of Dark Souls at all, and I had beaten every minute of it. I'd gotten through every part, dying and going through every piece of it. 4 years after I beat Dark Souls 1, didn't even know Dark Souls 2 was out. Played Dark Souls 2, hated it. I hated every second of Dark Souls 2. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know I was playing another Dark Souls game. It felt like two separate games. But I beat Dark Souls 2 because I wanted more Dark Souls. And then I was hyped for Dark Souls 3. Later in life, I had discovered that one of my friends was trying to get into Dark Souls because he had heard how hard it was. Now I was confused because I said Dark Souls isn't hard. He loaded up the game and immediately wasted all of his stamina. And he struggled. He didn't know how to switch his equipment. He was suffering because the game didn't give you a tutorial. You had to learn that by yourself or learning by reading the things on the ground. But he didn't read anything on the ground. And he gave up and stopped playing it. He went hollow because he gave up. The main core message of Dark Souls is perfectly articulated within its gameplay. Dark Souls is not a hard game. Dark Souls is a game that rewards patience, understanding, and perseverance. That is the core message of Dark Souls. Let's talk about patience for a moment. You have to learn a boss. And to spend your time learning each enemy. When you learn the attack patterns and routes and how they react and looking for their openings, you get their openings. That's patience. Understanding, you get to read the lore. The lore isn't you read it throughout item descriptions, discovering through small, minute details, piecing it together yourself. It relies on the player. It trusts the player enough to learn the lore by yourself. It's not pushed down your throat. There's no unskippable cutscenes. It is right in front of your face if you want it. If you don't want it, you don't have to be invested. It gives it completely to player choice. Perseverance. This also goes deeply in the player choice. This is the most important part about Dark Souls to me. If you are playing Dark Souls and you see those hollows going about, they have died countless times. They will continue to get resurrected every time you rest at a bonfire. Every time. They will come back. Each time they will come back. Why is that? Why do they come back each time? Because that is the curse of man. To continue to persist by extending the flame, by making a series go on too long, such as the era of flame, you end up with consequences. You get people that are sick of existing within it. You get people that are sick of existing within it. You get hollows. And that's what happens to you if you give up. You hollow. You quit. You go insane thinking about the game. You don't want to play it anymore. I can't beat this. It's too hard. That is reflected in the game and on you. But if you persevere, you become the chosen undead. The chosen person to beat Dark Souls. That's what you become. You become the person that actually gets to beat the game. You become the people that get to say, oh yeah, I beat Dark Souls. Dark Souls is not about doing things that so level 1, no armor, roll only, no. Dark Souls is not about doing these impossible feats and tasks and challenges. Dark Souls is about taking your time. A game that cares about its atmosphere more than it cares about you. It is about taking a chance on something that doesn't care about holding your hand, but caring about you as a person to be smart enough to do it. That is Dark Souls. I love Dark Souls because it doesn't allow you a moment to think about, wait a minute, no. It allows you a moment to rest at a bonfire and take things. Where do I go next? You decide. What do I do? You decide. It is so impressive to me how the entire first half of Dark Souls, up until Sin's Fortress, has no cutscenes. There are no load times, is what I mean. Everything's loaded in the game. It's all loaded into one thing. It all loops back into itself. The best stage design I've ever seen in my entire life. That is a game that feels complete. The first half of Dark Souls. The second half of Dark Souls 1 does not feel complete. Not even a little bit. But the first half feels good. This game cares so much about you as a player is rare. There are games that will hold your hand. They will tell you that, oh, we're going to give you extra this, extra that. Dark Souls doesn't give you a damn thing. Dark Souls says you are not special. You are human. Same as everyone else. So you must struggle like a human. You must learn like a human through trial and error. And you must do your best like a human. You must gather humanity to become human. Take a rest by fire, the one thing humans have coveted their entire existence. You must become human. That is important to the core of Dark Souls. Becoming human, becoming a lord, transcending everything, or allowing it to go into an age of dark. It's infinite, it's a loop, it goes on forever. If you have an age of fire, you'll have an age of dark. It's endless. That is the beauty of why I love Dark Souls so deeply. It is a game that cares enough to not care about you. It is a game that is a perfect reflection of what it means to be a human indefinitely. It is a perfect game for patience and reward. I love it, and I hope you do too. Dark Souls is not hard. It is simply human. Bye.